All right, we're here again with another episode of Rock Fantasy Files with a very good friend of mine, a local guy near my shop in Middletown, New York, and he lives down in the Goshen area. This is Chris Caffery from Trans Siberian Orchestra and Savatage and Chris and whatever else. Chris has got
Whoever needs a guitar player that year on the road, Doro and Metal Church.
Yeah.
Have guitar will travel. No.
So, thanks for bringing cheer to so many people every holiday season with TSO. I know that I watched the stream over the weekend, and I thought it was really uplifting and something that people really needed to see in 2020. And so many people, as a holiday tradition now, and a Christmas tradition for you guys to go out every year. Of course, it's how you make your payday, but it's how many families and how many people look forward to going to see TSO every year. I think it was special that you guys did get to pull that off, and maybe let's talk a little bit about the event, if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, me and we've been speaking about things and what may happen and may not happen in 2020 all year. I mean, we were discussing before everything even started to shut down what might happen. And, with TSO being November and December, we were kind of holding on as long as we could. We didn't shut down the idea of the tour until the end of August. So every prayer that we had of it getting to the point of where we could maybe get it together, we kept holding out for, and it never got to that way. And for 21 years, we'd been on the road with the winter tour, and especially the last, I would say 19 of those 21 tours were happening before Thanksgiving. It went through that whole entire season, and we just kind of established a relationship not only with the fans, but with ourselves as a band, as a family. So it was just one of these things where, Paul's message through TSO and the music and lyrics was always like a message of hope. And this year, there's been nothing more than a need for messages of hope. Everybody has been so drained from everything that's gone on throughout 2020. And you could go through a list of 10 different things that'll just make your head spin around in circles. It's like some weird dream, that we just haven't been able to wake up from. But, at the end of August, I got the call finding out that we weren't doing the tour. And that was really weird because I always had that little bit of hope that maybe it would happen. And then you got the call from, I actually got a call from Paul's widow, and she was just like, we've tried everything we could and it's not going to happen. And we'll be in touch. And then I got a call probably 4 weeks later from management. And it was funny because those 4 weeks were my calm in 2020, because when you're thinking about whether or not you're going to need the tour in this mess, it was a little bit stressful. So when the tour got canceled, there was a lot of me that was upset, but there was part of me that was like, all right, well, I don't have to worry about this because, I take care of my mom, and just the whole situation of, oh my God, am I going to come home and have to hide in my freaking, in an RV in my driveway for, am I going to get this? It was just one of these things. So when it was like, all right, we're not doing it. And then I got the call at the beginning of October, and it was like, so what do you think about doing this live stream idea that we have? And of course I had to do it, but it went back into that mode again of like, oh geez, now I gotta leave in the middle of this. I gotta leave my own little bubble and go into TSO land. But there was really no way. I've never missed a TSO show in my life. I mean, I'm the only person in the band that's done every show we could possibly do. And I wasn't going to let Paul down. And I told my mom, I'm like, look, I have to do this. And I just really trusted the management and everybody involved. And they went above and beyond as far as all the COVID work, the pre-testing. We had a company watching us every day. We had police making sure, the band, the crew, everybody, the management had masks on the whole entire time until the cameras rolled. That's when the band took them off, and we were the only ones. And we were tested before we left to go down to Tennessee. We were tested when we got there a week later before we started. Then we were tested every other day, and we were temperature tested every day. It was really, really done well. And the company that monitored that for us said that we were the only thing that they did all year long. And there was a lot of entertainment things happening throughout Tennessee and Nashville, because Nashville's gotten really big. And we were the only thing that didn't have to shut down because of a breakout of COVID within the thing. Not one person. And it was, if you look at the credits at the end of that thing, there was a lot of names that went into
Yeah.
making that. I mean, that whole entire bunch of the band, the crew, the light and sound crew, the film crew, everything, not one single person tested positive, you know, and that's something to be said about of a lot of things with this. You know, I know people, I don't want to get too much into that kind of stuff, but people tend to argue about what should or shouldn't be done as far as this thing. And all we did was, when we were out of our own little circles, is we put the mask on, you know, and it's like that transfer of that possibility. And Tennessee is actually the second highest place rate per capita right now.
Oh, wow.
Spreading. I saw something today with the governor of Tennessee said we're in a war. I mean, so for us to go basically into the war zone, to the front line, and walk out without a freaking bullet wound, I mean, it just shows you that there is, you know, a lot of truth to the mask thing. I know they're not fun. It's not fun,
Oh, no.
you know, but it's like, you know what, if it's gonna help get us through this until the vaccines are around, we have living proof that it works. So, but it was really, you know, it was stressful out of the gate. It was a really bizarre dream feeling when I was there. I mean, imagine like you're in your hotel room, you don't walk out of the door of that room without a mask on, and you're getting in the elevators, and there's people down there from Tennessee that are in the you know, they want to get in the elevator with you, and they don't want to wear a mask, and it's weird.
Oh,
because,
yeah,
I drove down there, and there was people that were in the gas stations, that, you know, the convenience stores and the gas stations that didn't have it. And I was just like, I just kept moving when I saw those situations. But then you got to the rehearsal. We rehearsed at SIR in Nashville, and we got in there. We rented the whole place out for the week. So TSO had the whole entire facility.
Okay.
You get in there, and you walk through the door, and some days you had to get the blood tests, and you had to wait on the side to see your result before you were able to even go in to where the band was. So it was really surreal, but we got up there and we did our thing, and it's like you said, it was something really positive and people really enjoyed it. And I didn't really look at any of the test filming to see what it was going to look like, but everybody was telling me it was going to be pretty cool. I mean, I wanted to kind of just watch it when I got home and see what it was. But I think it came out really cool. I was really happy with it. It's something I told everybody, we were a part of history with that. You know, it's like that time when TSO was the band, that we were one of the few bands that toured every November and December. We weren't there. So we had this going on, and, you know, the fans were really, really happy about it. I think we sold more tickets to our live stream than any other band did the whole entire year worldwide. We had the largest amount of sales in the world for something like that, which is something that's really cool. And you know, the response has been good, and everybody was really happy. There was a little bit of streaming issues the first time it played, but throughout the weekend you're able to replay it, and I replayed it a few times just to watch it again on different things, and it moved smoothly, and it was fun, you know. And I got home, and it felt like a tour ended, you know. It's like you took your luggage out, you put it down. I was like, wow. And now I'm here. This is my first Christmas week home in 20 years. So it's pretty crazy.
It's good to be home with your mom for the holidays, I'm sure, but it's also, you kind of feel like, I mean, I run a record shop here in Middletown, New York. If you're not familiar with me, Rock Fantasy. And I've been laying severely low. I've got kids that have been running my store since we reopened in June or whatever. I go in the morning and set up, and I'm really laying low because I'm a caregiver for my wife also. And I can relate to you with the hotel thing. I was at a racetrack over the summer down by Philadelphia, and I was there so late, and I'm like, screw it, I'll just go get a room. And I got there, and it was so weird going into a hotel, and then some people, like you said, didn't have a mask. I think the main thing about masks, I have a couple friends that work in the medical field. If you wear the N95, it's one mask that does really work to protect you, where these other things don't really protect you. And then people say, oh, the masks don't work. But I don't think anyone's really educated people enough on that. But we don't want to go too much.
We've been all over the map all year, and that's a shame, because we're going to go over 500,000 dead in this country, and it's a shame. We didn't need to go over 100, and It's
Yeah.
you know, it's the main thing about it is I always tell everybody, if you're in, say you're going to shop, right, you wander in there, and
Mm-hmm.
first of all, you're not supposed to go in there if you think you're sick. So hopefully nobody is having
Yeah.
symptoms and going in, but you know, there's
Sure.
people that don't even care, which is
Yeah, of
scary. But,
course.
you know,
Or just have to go. Yeah, sure.
so if you have your mask on and they have their mask on, it's not going to stop everything, but you need a decent amount of this to get
Yeah.
blasted out and to get, and you actually have to have like a, there's like a grace, there's like a 15-minute grace period where that stuff has to be breathed into you and
Okay.
taken in. So, I mean, when you have your mask on and they have your mask on, it really, it doubles all the chances of you just getting to do what you have to do. Like I said, it blows. I go in
Yeah.
there, I don't love it, but
No,
it took
no,
me
but
till
you have.
September to go to a grocery store. You know, I'll go now, but I don't love it. You know, I go and I get in, I get out. But
So do I. I was at ShopRite this morning. I went to the one in Montague, and it opens at 6 a.m. and my butt was on the road at 5:30 in the morning, and I was like, maybe there's 20 people in ShopRite at 6 in the morning in Montague. I started going there because they open early and the deli's open and everything else.
yeah, no, it's fine because what I was doing, the thing I was doing was, you know, when you're not going, I was buying too much of everything because you had to buy everything in bulk at home, and
True.
I didn't have any of the things I wanted. You know, there's
Yeah.
little things that you don't want to eat everything all the time, and so I
Yeah,
just
of
like,
course.
and it added back a little bit of the normalcy, and it's fun. I mean, I work out of my house in my studio here on my
Yeah.
artwork, my hot sauce, and my music, and I have a large yard and a lot of things to do. So I never really look to go anywhere other to them going to like shows or playing shows. So
True.
I'm home a lot when I'm off the road anyway. So this year was kind of like a lot of people started having my life. I was like, this isn't really that weird for me. I'm home anyway. Everybody else is just home now. So that's why when I was watching all these people do all their cover songs and their
Yeah.
online things, and I'm giving video lessons, this, that, the other thing, I'm like, well, you know what, you guys, I'll let you all do this now, because when life gets back to normal and you disappear, people are going to be so attached to that, they're going to need somebody doing it. So I'll be back
True.
home, and when everybody else is back to normal, you could tune in with me, and I'll take over when it gets back.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I started making a lot. I do a lot of sea glass art, and I must have made 150 different pieces of art that have sold since the beginning of July. So it's been really busy for me. You know,
Nice.
I sold a couple, you know, just last night I made a wreath and sold, and it's just, so I'm constantly working. Every time I make them, they're pretty much able to be sold and I get custom orders. So that's been really relaxing for me, because I just sit down here in my bar room and I have my paints up here, and it's kind of sloppy, but I'm just going
Sure.
through my little toy shop, and that's been a really good release for me, because, you know, there's so many guitarists out there giving lessons now, and there's, you know, and everybody's like buying for people's time, and I'm like, well, you know what, those people that are teaching, they need those people they're getting lessons from. Right now, through this art, I don't need to take those people, so I'm just letting everybody have, you know, people that need to have the lessons can do it, and at least I'm really bad. I'm lucky I made it to you on time. I'm bad with schedules. So if I had a guitar lesson schedule, I would be a disaster, because I'm just really bad. Unless I'm on the road, I'm bad with schedules. I'm so bad.
Okay. Yeah.
If I could control football game times, I would, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, at least we got some NFL to watch this season.
Yeah, no. I've been doing all right in my fantasy games, but I keep getting injuries, and I keep having to play the waiver game this year. And you get the COVID. You get the COVID people that disappear on you, that messes you up here and there.
Oh yeah. I find it amazing that we've gotten this far in the NFL right now. That's amazing. It's good. I mean,
Well, I mean, we're lucky enough that, you know, there's a lot of people that didn't get it. The ones that do are usually in the younger age, to where they're
sure.
beat it out through the immunity, and they've been, you know, they've been helping these people. The NFL's been getting help, the same kind of, you know, plasma and things like that, to get these guys back into the game quickly, because this country needs that. You know,
Okay, yeah, exactly. Just
it's
like
really important. I mean, I know for me personally, even when baseball started again and hockey, it was a sense of normality. I don't even look. It's funny because I don't look for the people anymore. I'm so used to watching these games without people that I
Yeah.
don't look for the crowds anymore.
And once in a while, you get a crowd, and certain cities do have limited
Yeah,
capacity.
there's a little bit. Some of them have it programmed for the home and
was
away teams. You know, you were watching the Jets Rams game, and they were trying to get applause in and defense for the Rams, but that
Boy, that was a shocker. I
yeah,
tell you, I got the same way with watching. I mean, if you remember in the very beginning of this, the only sport, if you want to call it a sport, an athletic event, was pro wrestling. Was the only thing
yeah,
that survived, and pro wrestling was going. And AEW, which I know you're friends with Chris Jericho and some of those guys. AEW runs in Jacksonville, and they've been running that amphitheater that Tony Khan owns, where he owns the Jaguars and everything else, and they've been running with a limited crowd. And at least what they do is they put the sort of like how TSO with you worked. Everybody was tested, and they had some of the wrestlers around the ring to make some noise. So I thought that made it a little bit different. But I know you're starting to get used to not seeing people in the crowds, and now you've got the NBA coming back, and you have the NHL back.
NBA starting tonight, I think, is the first games.
Oh, I think it is. Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
And that's what. Oh, wait, I'm going to see. Is that on? I don't know who has it. I'm going to switch behind you. I have my.
I don't watch a lot of NBA. I'm mostly football and hockey. But
You know what? I'm interested to see how the Brooklyn Nets do this year, because they got
an NBA.
They got Durant. Yeah, it's on TNT. They got Durant. So it's Golden State.
Okay.
And Durant's playing his first net game right now.
And NBA.
Brooklyn's up by 20 points, right? 22 points the third.
And NBA is not in the bubble for this. They're traveling around like the NFL.
Yeah, now they are. They when they got back into their practices out of the gate, some of these guys started screwing up, and they pulled them all aside and said, look, this isn't freaking fun time, because that's what happened with a lot of the stuff in baseball in the beginning and things like that.
True.
These guys were traveling, and they would have these chicks showing up in their hotel room.
Of course.
And then they were bringing in the virus. Then the guy would go in the locker room for next week. You know,
and that's all you need. Yeah. So anything you want to add? We're kind of off topic, but anything you want to add about the TSO show or TSO in general before we move on to maybe talk a little bit about your solo career stuff or something like that?
It was really fun to do, and hopefully next year there's going to be a TSO tour at the end of the year. I'm thinking that, you know, as this thing moves in, if the vaccines work, that we may be one of the first things that get to happen indoors by the end of 2021 would be the
fingers crossed. Yeah.
Fingers crossed that can happen. And, you know, TSO is going to release some of the unreleased Paul and Leo music, like Romanoff and some other things. And, you know, we'll just see what happens with next year. And for me, like I said, I literally feel, even though it was only the one show, I mean, we set up and rehearsed for this pretty long, so we were running through it and playing, and I was away from the house for a few weeks, so it's like I felt like I came back from a little bit of a tour, and it was a good thing, and
yeah,
you know, I get and now officially 2021 or 2020 is over, you know, for me, so
sure
I don't have to worry about leaving again for something. And it wasn't that wound up being a bad experience, but you know, you get stressful about it until you get those.
Of course, it's just like you said, it's stressful just to go to the grocery store, more or less. Getting on the road, leaving your home for however long you had to go for rehearse and set up and play the gig and get back home. It's a stressful situation. I mean, some people aren't stressed out, but I'm on the stress side. I'm older, so.
Well, I mean, you got to be realistic about it sometimes. And I've got tested since I've been home, and everything's been negative, and I'm just happy that you know, I made it in and out, and I thank my management and everybody that was involved.
Excellent.
We all did what needed to be done, you know, and it was great to be able to play. Like the TSO East and West got together, so that was the first time I was on stage with Petrelli in the wintertime since the very first TSO tour in 2009. So
wow,
you know, and I only on the Beethoven's Last Night tours had ever toured with Soto with this, so it was fun to get back on stage with Soto, and he was great. He's awesome, and just the whole thing was fun. And for me, I really enjoyed it. I'm kind of used to the TV thing because we always would do like Regis and Kelly and those kind
Hmm.
of things with TSO. So I'm used to that. And
Yeah.
TSO, we over rehearse every year anyway, as far as how the live show goes. Because the idea
Good.
Paul wanted was your first show to be like your 10th. So we would
Okay.
play through the entire sets on the arena stages just to our crew, and people they would be our audience, or the West Coast band would be out there. So we literally would be playing to nobody, like we were performing. So we were used to that setup, so it wasn't anything too odd. But it was fun. I enjoyed it when it was all said and done. It was funny because I was packing away. I brought, I think 7 of my guitars were at my house, and I didn't bring them to the rehearsal place because I didn't feel like driving to there and driving home, especially since I was driving to Nashville by myself. So
Hmm.
I when I knew what I was done, I started to put things away, and there was some stuff that they wanted to do with promo and some other things with it that they didn't have things finished, and I had to go back out and drag in guitars because I was just so, it was all finished. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna pack and put my stuff down. I get ready to leave, and they're like, no, we still need you to do this. So it's like dragging my stuff back in because I was just ready to run. I'm like, I'm leaving. But no, it was a lot of fun though, and I really love seeing my friends in the band and the crew and everything. So
That was
it was,
awesome.
yeah, it was great.
So since we're in a Christmas mode and we're taping this a couple days before Christmas, we're on what week? Christmas Eve. We're taping this right now. And what's your favorite Christmas song? It's like a kid, maybe you don't play in TSO or cover. What would be a song that you would say, man, I remember this and I loved listening to that song as a kid? I didn't rehearse this with you, so I'm putting you on the spot.
I don't know. I mean, you're a kid, so you always knew songs like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Let It Snow. And I took Latin in school because I, for some stupid reason, wanted to take a dead language. And
Uh-huh.
we would go around to my town, and I grew up in Mahwah, New Jersey, and we would do Christmas caroling to people's houses, singing, Rudolph and Frosty in Latin.
Cool, cool.
That stuff I have memories of that, running around and singing that way. But
Yeah, that's cool. And staying with Christmas, what was like the coolest or one of your memorable gifts you got from Santa as a kid? Like a toy you got, like something you can go back and think of back in the day. What was a cool toy or moment at a Christmas time that you can think of? Since we're talking Christmas.
I think, being the fact that we were so into the arcade game things. I don't know if you remembered it was a triangle. It was called the Telstar Arcade. It had a steering wheel, a gun, and a Pong.
Okay.
That was something that came on Christmas. And
Yeah.
I remember that. It was always something like that, whether it was the first Atari that came out or
Yeah, I had that. I remember that on
ColecoVision
Christmas.
came out, and Donkey Kong was something you
Yeah.
could get at home. That was a big deal. And I remember when the first computers came out, Radio Shack had the first
Hmm.
computer, Tandy. I might even still have that somewhere here, but those were the things because I was always into the video game thing. I never really had anything good as far as
Yeah.
pinball machines. I think I might have had some really bad little pool tables when I was a
Okay.
kid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The pinball came later, and we'll talk
Yeah.
about that later in the program. What do you got going on with your solo career right now? You got something working with that, and your plans, like what you've been working on? I know you did the project with Ripper that came out. What was that? 2019, last year?
Yeah, I was writing another Spirits of Fire record at the beginning of this whole mess. It's been delayed because that's one of those records that's recorded in multiple spots, but some of the people involved need to work in studios and work with other people. So it's kind of one of these things where we kept getting delayed on certain things. So I think, once the new year starts, hopefully
Hmm.
some of I do a lot of work with the country of Italy with that thing. And they locked down again. So a lot of the things they had to do were shut down. So it's just kind of got stalled. And I was going to do another solo record for me, but when I did the first Spirits of Fire record, I did my last solo record at the same time. And when you're writing two heavy metal records together, they both started to sound like the same record to me. Yeah. So I kind of was like, all right, I'm going to get Spirits out of the way. And then my record company in Germany got a hold of me asking me if I was going to do another solo record. And I didn't even, you know, I was finished with my deal with them, but they were like, look, we want you to do another record. So I'm like, all right. So basically, once we cross into 2021, I'm going to start working on my record. And it's kind of good that I waited. I think there's a lot of people who wrote songs while this year was going on. Me, I had trouble writing while this year was going on because we were still living what was happening right now.
Of course.
You know, we still are, but at least we've got a history in it now where my brain can absorb some of it. Was all happening so fast. So for me to sit there and write songs out of what was going on, I'm like, I'm still in this nightmare. You know, I'm not ready to step out of it and start writing music about it, but I'm actually thinking of making a solo record and having the record called 2020, you know, and just maybe kind of stealing from the Paul O'Neill style of writing a story from January till the end of December on this record, on this year, and maybe even end up with like a holiday winter instrumental in the last month, but just go through the whole year emotionally and the whole roller coaster I went on. And you know, I could stick my Sick of This Shit single that I did this year on that, because that fits right in it. So if there is a new record, that definitely would be on it. That song's actually a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite metal songs I ever wrote. And the single, and I did some funny, I don't know if you saw them, I did t-shirts with tour dates in my yard.
Yeah, I saw that.
Those were like the best selling t-shirts I ever had. It's like, I turned around and they just kept selling out. I was like, this is funny, because people were so starved to have something fun and unique that were coming around. And I made masks in April because a lot of my friends in the front line were having trouble finding them. So I was helping with that stuff. But yeah, so I'm kind of in that mode where I think I'm going to do a lot of writing for my own thing in 2020, and I might even use, you know, some different singers on my next solo record to kind of throw in some characters. So, you know, I talked to Soto. He said he would love to do something. So if I can maybe throw in some of the people that, you know, had something to do with my life in that year too onto the record, I think it might be kind of cool to work them in emotionally into the songs as well. So I have some cool ideas for it. But you know, the hot sauce thing that got nailed. We got killed last year, not as far as the sales of the sauces, but we have conventions all over the country, Portland, Maine, you know, Anna out in California, and Phoenix and Chicago, and our Jersey Taco Festival, and all these things, you know, the Brooklyn one, they all got canceled. So we had a lot of things, you know, hit us with that. But luckily the sauces have been picking up. Sales. We're one of the, I think, number 2 or 3 in hot sauce selling companies for Price Chopper now.
Whatever got you into getting into the hot sauce business? And that's an interesting question. And how many different ones do you have right now?
Well, I mean, the company that I'm a partner with, Steve Seabury, and Steve and I, basically, it was 10 years ago. I always liked hot sauce, and I learned how to cook it, and I was making it. And Steve was actually managing me personally in my solo career with some stuff. And I was meeting up with him for something, and I was meeting a friend of mine that I actually exchanged hot sauce stuff in the city for some lunch thing. And I gave Steve some sauce, and we started talking, and he was doing some stuff with the summer tour, and he was also doing Metal Allegiance, but he was looking for, he put a hot sauce into the merch booth but put a label on for the festival tour. And then he was just like, you know, I want to do a hot sauce company. So we started High River, and at that point in time, we only had Hellacious and Tears of the Sun. They were the only 2 sauces we had. And me and him would go and show up at these hot sauce conventions, and everybody hated us because we were the long hairs that showed up. We had our booth, and all these people were gathering around us. And, you know, these hot sauce people, they're pretty competitive, you know, and they would have these two long hairs show up, and everybody would want to taste their sauces and go to the booth and meet me and Steve. And it just, as time went on, our sauces became really good. We got good at the recipes, and there's about
Cool.
10 out by the company right now. And we've gotten onto the Hot Shots show. I think Tears of the Sun is making that onto this show this year.
Okay.
And we're getting picked up by a bunch of other grocery store chains. And it's
Nice.
just, that part of it's been doing really well. Like I said, the live human aspect out in these conventions and hot sauce expos
obviously.
on. And, the problem with that is some of them are indoors. So it's a matter of which ones we're going to be able to do next year as far as indoor now. And plus it's like, people kind of cut out buffets and a hot sauce convention. People are sampling things out of the same thing.
True. Of course,
around in the mask, you have to have a mask off to eat a hot sauce.
Yeah. Right now, it's like
it's a difficult. One of the most difficult things to do. I mean, they said what spreads the thing is singing, screaming, concert audience stuff and drinking. So I mean that's, but that's good though. The business itself is doing well, and it'll pick back up again. It's just one of these things where time is kind of stopped, and that's one main thing about this year. You really start to appreciate time a little bit more because you don't really know. I mean, this could have happened, and to where we got into it, never got out of it. It's looking like we're going to be getting out of it, but it makes you think about when things do get back to normal, appreciate every bit of time you have.
For sure.
Really, we actually were pretty lucky. I mean, we made it out of Vietnam and the Korean War, and we got into the 70s, and we had a few things here and there that were going on. We had, there's always been wars in this country, in this world, and we had 9/11, and there's been terrorist attacks and this and that, but we as a world made it for almost 50 years without something that was globally like a world war or something like that. I mean, I know even the last pandemic was the Hong Kong flu in around the time of Woodstock. So we've been 50 years since
definitely
slammed the whole world. So we just had our little experience in history. I mean, we don't realize this now, but we're a huge part of the history books right now.
Oh yeah, it's a dark time in history, like the Spanish flu, which came with if you grew up, were born in what was it? I think the graph was like 1910 or something. You had to live through the Spanish flu, the Depression. World War One came first. World War One, Spanish flu, Depression. Then you had World War Two while you were still alive. So yeah, we've skimmed through it until now.
So the whole worldwide, this is, it's been pretty interesting. Anyway,
so, let's get back to music. I was going to ask you a couple questions and get back to how you started out. And the first one I was going to say, what album or albums changed your life?
Well, when I was a little kid, I listened to the Beatles. I was a Beatle fan, but I liked, I liked songs like Revolution and Help. I wasn't like the big She Loves You, yeah fan. It was just, I really liked, and when I listened to Sgt. Pepper's, I was like, wow, this is, and you really didn't, I'm talking when I'm 4 or 5 years old, you didn't really get a chance to get out and get things. And I believe I was right around 5 when my neighbors that knew I liked music and knew I talked about, even at that age, wanting to be a musician. Cause I went to show and tell at the year of 5 years old, and I sang Help to the class when I was 5 years old. So this is what I wanted to do ever since then. And my neighbors bought me Wings Over America for Christmas.
Oh, cool.
That triple live record has such an amazing variety of rock and roll music. Every kind, from even as far as there's heavy metal on that, there's really heavy songs on that record.
Yes, I love that record.
There's real, and that to me was the one that, just even from looking at the double neck guitar and the Les Paul and just the bubbles and the lasers and all the pictures with that. And then what had happened after that was 75, me and my brother were saving some money that we had and went to a record store. And in the same day, we bought 2 records in one day. Boston,
Okay.
Boston and Kiss Alive.
Okay.
First 2 purchases. So I mean, if you take those 3 albums, Wings Over America, the first Boston record, and Kiss Alive, if you had any feeling of being a musician in your life that wasn't inspired by those albums, you'd be crazy. I mean, that was like such a big piece of rock and metal history. I mean, the first Boston record is one of the greatest records ever. That Kiss Alive, and it's not that it was the most live album ever, but it was just priceless. The songs were amazing, and that front cover was just so vicious. It was so bad, and that was what I was looking for. I was like, well, this is what I wanted out of all these records I was listening to. I was waiting for somebody to basically kick my ass. And that's what happened with that Kiss record. And then, you know, from there, I just started building it. And I got a guitar around when I was like 6, but my brother played drums and we didn't have a lot of money. So I played drums at a school band, but drummers hate when I say this. I wanted to make music. So I stopped playing drums and started playing guitar. So at 11, when I just turned 11, I started taking guitar lessons, and that's when I saw Kiss and Judas Priest when I was 11 years old. When I just turned 11, and that you know, KK Downing and that Flying V, and then Priest into Maiden. And it was funny because when I was 12, that next year, I was going to, I think it was Harmony Hut or something in the Paramus Park Mall.
I remember that story, yeah.
And they had a contest for Judas Priest in there from CBS to win backstage passes. And this is funny, because I'll show you how stupid I was not stupid, just naive at the age of 12. There was to win tickets and backstage passes and a Judas Priest catalog. And I won. I got the phone call from Columbia Records.
Oh, wow.
I was 12 years old and I won this contest. And, you know, and I didn't realize that a catalog was all their music. You know, it's like, so I had all the Priest records show up in vinyl, and I went down there and I met them at the age of 12. And I remember meeting KK Downing, and he was like, so what do you want to do when you grow up? And I get older. And I said, I want to be like you. And that was me at 12. And when Savatage toured Europe with Judas Priest back in 2000, I think it was, I remember talking to KK and Glenn about that. You know, I was that little kid because I was the youngest fan they had then. There was no freaking 12-year-olds at the Palladium in New York City when Judas Priest played on British Steel. There was no 12-year-old kid in the audience there. I was a freak of nature. I had my little British Steel shirt on, and I went there, and my parents dropped me off, and I went in there with my brother, and then I just became friends with them. The next year when they played with Maiden, they had me on tickets and backstage passes every year.
That's amazing.
I got to see Priest with Maiden and Diano the next year. Then I got to know Adrian Smith, and I kept getting Maiden, you know. So when I was 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, those bands were always, you know, into the super young kid that was a guitar player that was a huge fan of theirs. So I always got backstage passes to, like, the first time Priest played the Garden, the first time Maiden played the Gardens, like all those things. I knew those guys. So it was just kind of really... Yeah. It was really cool to go and tour with them and open for them and play and go through those memories, you know.
That's great. So then, of course, you started playing guitar with your brother, and I can remember seeing you playing in the State Theater in Port Jervis. Hazy memories of many, many moons ago. I think you were warming up, was it Anvil or Overkill?
The first time we played there was opening for Overkill, and the second time was opening for Metallica's first East Coast show ever.
Oh yeah, so I was at both of those shows. That was the Metallica.
We got thrown off the stage at the Metallica show because my singer set up pyro. And here's another.
I usually remember that.
Here's another funny story from that.
I mean, that part.
I knew the Rock Fantasy people who knew the Megaforce people, and Metallica was coming this way, and they didn't have a lot of money in their budget, and they needed somewhere to stay, and they asked if Metallica could basically crash in my basement, and my mother said no. So I can only imagine how close of friends I would have become with that band if I had them sleeping in my house when I was 16 years old and knowing them that way. But yeah, I got to play their first show here, but it had and they probably wouldn't have even killed my pyro if they were able to stay in the house, which is,
That's true. That's true. Yeah. So that was the band Anti, correct?
Yeah, but I was 16 then, and we were constantly looking for singers, and this is the thing that actually really helped my career, and I think it's been long enough now where I really can't get in trouble for it. But back then, the drinking age was 19. And my brother, when I turned 17, my brother was 19. When he was 19, it went to 21. When you were 19 and it went to 21, you could still get in places.
Yeah.
So I was 17. So my brother had a non-photo driver's license because they didn't have photo driver's license then.
Mm-hmm.
And he had his credit card and social security card. So when I was 17 years old, I was able to go hang out in clubs. I didn't drink. I never even drank till I was like 19, 20. So I made it through high school without having a drink. So it wasn't like I was going out to drink underage. I just wanted to go to these places. So when I was 17, I was in New York City, and that's when I met the management and people that worked for the band Heaven, which introduced me to Paul O'Neill, which got me into Savatage and put my career to exec. So basically, not to suggest this to any of the kids out there, because I'm not going to be the bad influence on anybody, but it was really pretty much because of my brother's fake ID that I got into Heaven when I was 17, and my life changed. I was playing with Savatage, opening up for Dio when I was 19 years old as a direct result of using fake ID. So it's like, I never drank with the fake ID. I just went out and saw bands, but that's how I got in. And it was funny, we would go together. My brother eventually got his picture license. So I would go in with the paper license. And once I was in and he saw that I was in, like 10 minutes later, he'd go in with the ID, with the picture. Yeah. And they never figured it out, or it was the same person. They never did, because they were just looking at the date. And plus he had the picture, so it immediately erased the bouncers. So we never had a problem with that, but
things you could get away with back in the 80s.
Yeah, and plus when the drinking age still was okay for people to be 19, you know, you see now a 19-year-old kid looks like he's freaking 12, you know. So back then, if I looked young, it really didn't, it wasn't that weird, you know. Yeah. You were just younger. So I was able to get in and do that. So, but I lucked out with that. I got to meet the singer at Heaven, and I gave him a demo tape, and he took me into the band, and I got on my first tour with him. And then I was working with Paul, and he just started doing Savatage on the Mountain King tour, on Mountain King record. And he was like, I produced this record, and the band has one guitar player, and I think it should have two. And that, being a second guitar player in Savatage was not Savatage's idea. That was Paul's idea. And they were not happy about it at first, but it was funny because Paul told me in like the summer of that year of the Mountain King tour with Dio that they wanted me to play with them, and I had this gig and I was going to go play. So I learned, I had heard Holocaust and Sirens on SOU, and I really liked Savatage's music. And then when I got Mountain King and then I bought Power of the Night, and I never liked Fight for the Rock, but neither did they. But I just learned all their songs, and I was ready to go do this tour. And then the week before I was supposed to fly to Florida to rehearse, the manager at that time calls me up and says, the Savatage took another guitar player.
Oh, wow.
And I go, no, they didn't. Because I love this music. It was really natural for me to play. So I said, all right, listen. I said, you guys have been telling me for 6 months I have this tour. Mm-hmm. Here's what I'll do. I said, they lived in Tampa, Florida. I lived in New York. I said, I'll buy a plane ticket and I'll fly myself to Florida. If I suck and they don't like me, I'll eat the ticket and go home. If they like me, I'll stay there and do the tour.
Okay.
So I flew down there, and of course I get to the airport. There's nobody there to get me. Like I said, they told the management they were hiring this kid they knew down there who they weren't even going to use. They just basically lied to them to get the idea out of Paul's head.
I see. Yeah.
Chris didn't want another guitar player. So I show up, I get in a taxi and go an hour to where the rehearsal place is. I get in there, and I knew them because I met them from recording at the record plant in the city, and
Yeah.
they said, they got me an amp, and they said, so what do you want to play? And I said, whatever. And they're like, what? I said, I know every one of your songs. They were like, get out of here. I said, I do. So they picked something they thought was kind of weird that I would, they picked the Whip, you know, which is like, I don't think they really thought that I would know the Whip, because it's one of, you know, Whip was like a Metallica tune, because Savatage was like one of the leaders of thrash. I mean, but they never were all thrash. And if you talk to like James and those guys, they loved Savatage. The Testament guys, Chuck Billy used to go to high school listening to Sirens in his car on the way to high school. I mean, those guys were big Savatage fans.
Yeah.
I just played that song with them, and after that one song was done, they were all watching while I was playing it, which just sounded so freaking tight, because my guitar style was just, me and Chris were almost the same age. He was a couple years older than me, but we played not identically lead wise, but identically rhythm wise, our influences. And they left the room. They said, we'll be right back. And they said, we want you to do this. So we went and we played, and I think actually I played the Whip, and then I might have played 24 Hours Ago with them.
Okay.
But they were just so blown away by how much better. And they said that, they go, dude, they go, this is weird. This is because you would not be doing this if we did not sound better with you. So that was their thing. And I went and did the tour, and it was weird for Chris. He really, first I was on the stage, and I was off the stage, and I was on the side. I'd say he didn't really know what he wanted, but me and Oliva became such good friends, me and John and me and Chris.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were just like, you know what, that next year we're going to make you a member of this band. And that's what happened with Gutter. But it was just,
I have memories of you playing, I believe, the Hall of the Mountain King tour at the Chance Theater along, was it with Megadeth? I think.
Megadeth.
Yeah, and I thought
Megadeth was doing
amazing.
one-offs on that tour. So
Yeah.
we did, I think, Allentown and some other, whatever we could. When Dio wasn't playing, Megadeth book shows at Savatage open. So we did a lot of theater shows.
So
I think
that tour
one was in Pittsburgh that we couldn't play it because we were late getting there, and they couldn't get Wackel's drum set to the stage because he had this really weird drum set that was like on all these racks. So because we weren't there before the fans, we couldn't play. Our tour bus broke down or something.
Yeah.
So Pittsburgh Megadeth date we weren't able to do, but we did a bunch of other ones.
Yeah, it was great. I interviewed Terry Butler, bass player, currently with Obituary, and he was talking about Savatage and how sometimes Obituary still listens to Savatage before they go on. So you were talking about Testament, so you know. And,
when I saw Jesus, why my brain is freaking
it happens.
Dimebag's brother. When I saw him at the last NAMM show.
Vinnie Paul.
Yeah, when I saw, and I knew the Pantera guys well because they were big Savatage fans. They used to show up at all our Texas shows, and it was funny because I knew them when they were Pantera, the cover band, and they showed up when they released Cowboys from Hell, and they brought a tape of it to me in the tour bus, and they're like, "No, you're gonna love this. It's heavy." I'm like, "Yeah, get out of here." But it was just, and I was like, "Wow!" But when I saw Vinny out at NAMM, it was the first time I saw him since Dime was shot, and he stopped. He walked by. He said hello, and I said he walked away, and then he got about 10 feet away, and I hear Chris, and I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Because I got to tell you something," and he said, "The very last music I listened to with my brother before we played the stage that night was the Hall of Mountain King record."
Wow.
So they were on their tour bus listening to the Mountain King album before they went into the Alrosa.
Yeah, so wow.
So
Savatage has left a mark in the metal for sure, and you got to get back together with them a couple of years ago in Germany. I don't know how many years it's gone now. I mean, time flies. You did Wacken with the Savatage and TSO both, right? That same year?
Yeah, it was 2015.
5 years ago already. Wow. Yep.
Well, yeah, Savatage was It's a really great band. It's kind of funny with Savatage because it's really the only band that's like Savatage. There's only one Savatage. No matter what, might not be everybody's, most known metal band, but everybody who knows them likes them. And around the world, Europe, South America,
Oh,
lots
yeah.
of places, that band, the Middle East, Savatage has a ton of fans. I remember when we released the Wake of Magellan record, and we were going through Europe. Not only were we getting to #1 on a lot of the rock charts, but magazines were having their year-end polls for favorite bands, and we were voted by the fans ahead of Metallica and Maiden. It was like Savatage #1 in Europe at that time. So we reached a level that was really cool for that. So, and then we got a chance to kind of repeat that level here in the States with TSO doing 20 years of these shows. So I've been fortunate, and all because of Fake ID.
And of course, you worked with someone that I've always admired, Doro from Warlock, and you've been in her band before and did a lot of her tours. And I know you're close friends with her, and that was always fun to get to see you and her play. I know you did a show for Rock Fantasy at the Chance years ago when you would.
Yeah, no, I played a solo on one of her records, and then I think it was probably, geez, I'm trying to think. She did the classic diamond or classic thing with the orchestra at Bach.
Yes,
she had me fly to Germany to be a guest of hers.
I remember that.
So me and Udo were hanging out and waiting to play, and Blaze Bailey was there. We all did a song, and I remember that weekend it was Saxon's 30th anniversary too. I played Denim and Leather with Saxon at
That's awesome.
At Wacken that year, and then I played with Doro, and I'm on her video for that. And I think it was the next year or the year after that I got a call when I was over there doing something in Europe, and she was having a little bit of a problem with Joe Taylor was ready to retire from touring. He didn't want to stay in Europe anymore, and he just wanted to. So they said, well, would you tour being Doro's guitar player? So I did. I finished her whole entire summer of touring, but she wanted to do touring in November and December, and obviously I couldn't do that. So she got Boz came and played with her, but I had done that, and I did a solo tour open for her America, and I just did her last American tour I played, and
I remember me and you were hanging out one day, and you got this call, and you're like, oh, yeah, looks like I'm going on the road. Doro needs me to come out and play because someone couldn't make the tour.
Oh, it's funny because I was on the Monsters of Rock cruise playing with Doro because Boz couldn't make it to the ship.
Yeah.
So I did that there, and then I was talking to Jeff and the Metal Church guys because the guitar player in Metal Church had something happen with his retina in his eye.
That's right.
So I did the Metal Church US tour after that. Then 2 years after that, Doro was touring America with Metal Church, and Boz couldn't make it over, so I was playing with Metal Church after I just toured with Metal. And it was funny because the people that came to see the show were like, who are you with now?
Yeah.
And they're like, a lot of people, you with Metal Church again? I'm like, no, Doro this time. It was just funny, But I mean, the metal community is one big family.
It is. And and you even cross over into another genre of music. If you live around the Northeast and you're around in the summertime, Chris goes out on the road and plays with the Polka King, Jimmy Sturr.
Yeah, well, he is a really good friend of mine, and actually I met him through Mark Scott, the drummer of Trixter. He had a restaurant in Florida, New York, where he lives, and I met him there. And Jimmy's like, oh, come see a show. So I went to watch a show, and he's like, why don't you come down and play his song on stage? So me and Mark did, and then Jimmy was just, he liked having the ability to speak about me on stage and this, that. So we just had it where I started to do a couple of his festivals, because he did a lot of these big beer festivals, and he was doing a lot of casino things because Jimmy had won 18 Grammys, which is pretty amazing. But right when I started playing with him, it was after he won his last one. It was that year. And he still had a ton of places that were calling him to play or giving him big offers. And it was kind of shitty of the Grammy people because they eliminated his category.
Oh,
And
wow.
you know, polka became like part of rural roots where they were like mixing all these things together. And I think, to be honest with you, Jimmy was winning Grammys so fast because his music was just better than the other polka bands. So he was winning
Hmm.
Grammys every year. And he, by now, would have been about ready to overtake the most Grammys ever.
From
And
anyone.
I don't think they wanted that to be by a polka guy. So they eliminated his
Yeah.
category. And it kind of sucks because I think they damaged, you know, a lot of, you know, when you win a Grammy that year,
Hmm.
that next year or that year, you're able to book shows and be like Grammy Award winner, you know,
Yeah.
2020. And it just worked stronger. And I just saw, you know, as time went past 5 years from the last Grammy, some of these casinos and things like that, you just, the hype
Yeah.
goes away. So it was really, the Grammys kind of really screwed him over in some ways in the States, which stunk. But I had a lot of fun. I still do some things with them, not as much as I did, but you know,
Yeah.
obviously the last live show I did in front of people was a festival in Florida, the Strawberry Fest down there. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a really, really nice festival. And Jimmy would open that festival up every year for like the last 30 years he did. And he just found out that they're not having bands on it this year. They're still having the festival, the Strawberry Fest with the, you know, the rides and the foods and stuff like that, but they're not having the band
Yeah.
play
With the
this year.
COVID.
So. But that isn't happening. But again, for me, I think that's okay because I'm not looking to leave to go anywhere
No,
right
no.
now.
We
I
gotta
need
still,
some time away from that.
we still need time out for a little while here to
Yeah.
get through this mess. But I hear pinball machines in the background, and Chris and I are both have one of the same interests in life with the hobby of playing and collecting pinball machines. And Chris has got a Munsters back there, and that's what we hear in the background with the crow squawking. And
Yeah, it has to play through the song.
and we helped Chris set up his Iron Maiden. My good buddy Eddie Kramer, who works in that field of pinball too, that lives down Monroe, came up and helped. He got one of the Iron Maiden limited edition games, I think before anybody else on the East Coast. And I know me and Eddie showed up and we took some pictures, and he got it down in the basement for you.
That's a really good game. Game's a lot of fun. I through the pandemic, it was like I would go through I have 10 games down here, and I would swap on which ones I play. But Maiden and Munsters are usually two that will get played every day. You know, I'll swap the other ones, but Maiden's fun. That's a really fun game. That's one of my favorite ones.
The Maiden is an amazing game. It was, of course, Keith Elwin, who was a professional pinball player's first game as being a designer. And one of my friends, Timmy Sexton, did a little work on that. And then, of course, you know, there's a lot of rock and roll pinball machines coming out now. And we just heard about the new one, Led Zeppelin. Alice Cooper has one through Spooky. And
no, there's some great ones. The new Kiss is a lot of fun. The Aerosmith game's a lot of fun. And
you have the new Kiss or just the old one?
I just have the old one.
That's what I thought.
I've wanted to get a new one, but they're really difficult to find, and they're not a cheap buy. They
are. Yeah, the Kiss ones really held their value.
Yeah, they did. So I'm kind of looking for somebody to just, you know, either want to swap or get rid of it when I got something else. But I like having the old one. I won't be upset if I don't have, you know, if I don't have both Kisses. I'm going to keep the old one, just because for the.
I sold you a couple out of my collection over here. The Big Buck Hunter.
Yeah.
The Star Wars.
That game, I still. You know what? That game is still a lot of fun. That's a great game, and this one's
fun old game. Yeah.
It's actually really fun, man. Especially when you have all these other ones, and you go back to that one. It's got a unique style that's different than everything else, and it still works well. I mean, that thing's nothing breaks. Every once in a while, it decides to shut your ball down early, but other than that,
okay,
nothing.
Yeah, definitely.
It still runs great. It has not had any problems. All the stuff works on that. That's a really, really, really fun game. But
pinball prices have blossomed during this. We're just in the opposite. You would think that people weren't spending money on things like that, but you can't, like, the prices of used games have gone through the roof. getting new games is difficult because they can't make them fast enough, and with COVID regulations and some of the parts and stuff are hard to get. So it's, yeah, the pinball hobby right now is blossoming, and Stern's still pumping out 3 or 4 games. They pumped out Avengers. They have pumped out Led Zeppelin this year. And
I think it's because people are starting to live more in their homes. You know, they're doing a lot. They're doing a lot of things out of their own houses. There's so many people that have bought, you know, outdoor heaters and things, play sets for their yards. And I went into Lowe's when I had gotten back from doing the TSO thing, and just to get a couple things that I needed. And it was the first year I think I've ever seen it. I'm usually not home before the end of Christmas, but I would go into Lowe's after I got home, which would be after New Year's a lot, and there'd still be a supply of some Christmas things. There wasn't a Christmas thing left.
Wow.
The stores have sold out of everything. And you drive down the road, and everybody's house looks like freaking Chevy Chases in Christmas vacation. People are going
That's true. I did a lot for mine too, yeah.
Everybody's like going over the top, decorating and doing that. So yeah. I have a lot of.
Since I'm doing a Christmas show, and Chris, I figured I don't usually decorate.
I only have 2 pinball machines on, but I've got lights everywhere in this place. The whole entire bar room is covered in lights.
My old blow molds from being a kid, I collect. So still have.
I actually dug out boxes I had of old Hallmark ornaments that I haven't had on trees in over 20 years. So it's like I had the box sitting in storage in my house, but I haven't been.
Because usually you're too busy to even think about that. Same with me with my store, and I got so much more downtime now. It's like I really put out more decorations out front. And, like I said,
I'm going to take a ride around probably. I was going to do it tonight, but I'm probably going to do it tomorrow because I know Christmas Eve it's supposed to rain. But I wanted to drive around Bethel.
You want to check out the one in Goshen by you is actually Watt's Christmas Wonderland. That's on Goshen Turnpike. It's $5 to drive through. He did a great job this year.
Oh, really?
Perfect, yeah. One night, my wife and I went to go. Dude, it was like they were lined up all the way to Goshen on the street.
Oh, really? Wow.
So it opens right at 6. Yeah, we went and did that. I did the one at Orange County Fair is doing one this year. It was okay too.
Yeah, so I was thinking like maybe tomorrow night I might head out after 7 and see. They got the one up at Bethel. I don't know how late that goes to. That one's supposed to be pretty cool too.
And of course, back to that Woodstock connection. A couple of years ago, we got Chris to play the national anthem, which you can find on my YouTube channel. I filmed it, and people still comment onto that just a day or so ago. He got up on the starter stand and did a Jimi Hendrix style of the national anthem, which was pretty awesome for the 100th anniversary of the local fairgrounds speedway in Middletown, New York here.
Well, it's cool because that was the actual 50th anniversary of Woodstock, and Woodstock was actually supposed to happen in Wallkill, so that was really closer to what the original location was going to be than Bethel. So.
And of course, Woodstock 50 fizzled out and went kaput. And I mean, Bethel had a few things, but it wasn't like the big event which we were all thinking was going to happen, and then the fairgrounds.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll have something happen again one day when we're allowed to see people, when people are allowed to see people again.
Yeah. But it would be refreshing to go up and ride through Bethel Woods just to check it out. It's a beautiful, beautiful property.
Yep. Yeah, no, I know. I've seen that. Yes, I got to look and see what time these things all stay running to, and I'll set my route. Maybe I'll drive through here and Goshen and head up that way and do Bethel and come back and stop at the fairgrounds and head home.
Yeah, true. So anything else you want to add to today's little program? I thank you for coming on. And
Wilbur says, hey.
We haven't mentioned Wilbur. Wilbur is one of his buddies there, and I think he helps make the sea glass.
Wilbur's the metal fin, and we did our metal Christmas ornaments again this year, and I'll grab one of them. Every year he has that, and we're due a lot of Wilbur's stuff gives money to children's cancer charities and other charities.
Oh, that's great.
He makes the sea glass stuff is basically one of Wilbur's things, but the whole metal fin thing, he has a Zazzle store, If you go to
Okay.
my Facebook or Metalfin, Wilbur the Metalfin's Facebook, you could see the Metalfin shop, and he's got like 500 items for sale on that, Zazzle items, and he sold masks. I sold masks this year, but Wilbur had them too. And
Okay.
I don't think I got here.
He's become quite the mascot.
There's a Wilbur mask.
Oh yeah, there he is.
Wilbur had his own mask. I had my own pisses me off mask. The virus pisses me off mask. And I had my sick of this shit mask too. So
I at one time got a picture with Wilbur and Dave Mustaine all in the same photo.
oh yeah. Wilbur, that's how he was like a present for me from an ex, and
Oh,
I just started taking pictures of him with people because I hate photos. I'm not a selfie guy.
okay.
So as I just started getting, that was the thing. It's like, oh, get your picture with Wilbur, get your picture with Wilbur. And then people just really became attached to him. And I started doing jewelry and other items and children's clothing. And then it just exploded, and then I started doing the sea glass stuff about 3 years ago. And that has become really, really fun for me. It's something I wasn't expecting. And I'll take things like these little birdhouses and I'll put glass over and find them, or I made a wreath last night that I sold today. It's already been shipped, but it's like I'll make things and they'll go out, and then I give some of the money to charities. Here's a sea glass elephant.
Oh, very nice.
But yeah, I do a lot of that. There's not a lot down here right now because most of them are up near the Christmas decorations upstairs in the house. But I do a lot of those things. That stuff is really fun for me. Like I said, I make a ton. But my dog is crying now because my cat's hiding underneath the Iron Maiden game, and he can't get to her. So he's frustrated.
So let's say people are watching this tonight and they want to buy some stuff, or they want to check out TSO or anything. Of course, how do we find you on the World Wide Web or Facebook or whatever else?
TSO is trans-siberian.com.
Okay.
I am www.chriscaffery.com, and I have a Zazzle store too, which is Zazzle Chris Caffery. Then Metalfin shop is on Zazzle, and if you go to Wilbur the Metalfin or my Facebook, and I started getting back into. It's funny, I stopped doing Instagram about 3 years ago because the Russians hacked my Instagram.
Really?
Yeah, seriously. I got onto Instagram on my computer side, and somehow somebody was hacking into my Safari and got in when I was on something through there, and got into the Instagram, and I got an email that was asking about me being online, and I thought it was asking about me.
Yeah.
So I think I okayed it or something, but whoever it was wound up stealing my password and making their own password.
Oh
So
my God.
I couldn't get back into my site, and it was a Russian email. It was actually hacked by the Russians, and I had to report it to Instagram, and I had to take the picture with the thing with the number that said you're you, and so for like 2 or 3 years I just stayed away. I couldn't handle. I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
TSO had me doing something with the radio station. I think it was down in Wilkes-Barre, and I had to do something live through Instagram with the DJ. So I opened back up Instagram and started. But Wilbur has an Instagram page, and so do I. So we just, I just run through normal channels. I do everything like everybody else. So
I have fond memories of taking my parents to see you in Wilkes-Barre with TSO, and when my parents were both on the earth still. When they were, and even the other night I was kind of sad watching the stream, because usually when you guys play I'm so busy with the shop that I don't get to go see, and every year I plan to, but that was one of the last times I saw you guys. I also saw TSO at Madison Square Garden when you played there that year, and I think it was the same year maybe, but I remember my mom and dad, the first part is mellow but yet heavy, and then that second set you came out and I was like, wow, mom and dad are at the heaviest metal concert they've ever been at.
This is a different one. I had a ticket. This is from the Boston Garden when it was the but I have
Oh
tickets.
yeah.
What is yours? I don't even know what year this is.
But we had some fond memories, and I always have cherished the memories of having mom and dad out in Wilkes-Barre and taking them to see you guys. And we did the whole meet and greet after, and I got to meet you, and it was a good time. So
It's 2005. When we started 2005, we were TSO was all arenas at that point.
okay.
Here's a ticket stub.
I was gonna say it probably was. My dad passed.
We were 2005, but look at this ticket stub I just found.
Oh. Ronnie James Dio, Mid Hudson Civic Center.
Yeah, 1984.
But I guess we'll wrap this up, and we found out how to find you. I'm Rock Fantasy Concert Shop on Instagram. Of course, like the video, please subscribe to my channel, and let's see some comments below. And you know, Chris will check it out. Hopefully, he'll share this to a couple of his avenues, and we'll. Hopefully, everyone has a Merry Christmas and a great New Year, and stay safe. And let's hope that 2021 becomes a better time for us all.
Yeah, I fingers crossed on that. I'm staying very like me. I've been very realistic with things throughout this whole thing, but I'm also being very optimistic about where I think it's going to go. I think we can get back to normal. These vaccines are a new technology that fingers crossed works, and we could get it out there and just get back. And at the end of the day, I think we might even wind up being healthier through this whole thing. You know, it's
you just don't know. Yeah, you know.
I think maybe we might have flu seasons go by with a lot less people. You know, people just being a little more cautious about how things spread and just become a little bit better in that. But it's been a different year. But everybody have a great holiday and a happy New Year, and just stay safe. And 2021's coming, man.
Daisy says goodbye. Merry Christmas.
I don't even know.
Wrap this
I don't know
up.
where Major went. I don't know where he's chasing my cat.
Okay. Well, have a good night, everyone.
All right.